The JoCo Vibes with Tiffany Carlin, Sarah Reeves Red, and the amazing Jason Bagley.
Yeah, I'm here. Let's say just like I did the first time.
Well, sometimes we need a second
I think
run.
it's just all the technical difficulties this morning. And I'm just like, okay.
Like it's like the world I'm living in right now. So it's amazing. Talk about it Tuesday. We'll have our feed up as quickly as possible.
Tiffany's working on getting that working. So while we do that, we can chitter chatter and get our information out. Do you know that today is the very first? Nope, it's the 30th of April. I just thought about it. I'm like, wait a second. There's one more day.
Right. Well, Anthony said that he lost his voice yesterday. He woke up and he didn't have a voice. And now today I'm sounding like I don't have a voice.
There's something about this weather. It's really super humid and gross.
I keep forgetting to take my Zyrtec. And it's not the season to forget to do that.
No.
At all.
No, it is not.
So
I have a rogue thermostat on my house.
A rogue thermostat.
I think it's a Democrat.
Because it's just taking.
No, it just keeps changing the temperature up on my. It literally is automatically changing my temperature settings.
Really?
And I'm trying to figure out what the crap is going on.
What kind of thermostat is it?
A Democrat thermostat. Because it keeps turning. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Is it one of those electronic ones or what?
It's electronic. You're supposed to be able. It's called an Ecobee, and I'm just wondering if it's like going. You're using too much electricity for the environment, so we're going to go ahead and change that for you. Or it does something on humidity or whatever. But I woke up in the middle of the night
sweating your ass off. Yeah,
and I'm like, what the crap is going on? And I look, and instead of it being at my typical 69, it was at 72.
72.
72.
That's too hot. I'm not sleeping at 72 degrees in the house.
I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a problem. I would be so angry. Like, you know how some of those hotels, like I know the Hilton in downtown Fort Worth, the one that JFK stayed at before he died. They have those thermostats in there that if they don't sense any movement in the room,
yeah,
they like turn off.
Yep.
I have never been more angry in my life than staying in a hotel room where the air conditioner kept cutting off because I was still. So I'm going to lose my freaking shit.
Little traveler's advice on that one. There's a couple ways to keep it going. And this comes from some of my friends that were traveling salespeople traveling all over the United States. They kept either a balloon on a string. They would keep a box of balloons with them in their trip, and they would blow up a balloon and they would tape it right there by the sensor.
Oh.
And so when it would move around, it would sense that there was movement and never turn off.
That's smart.
The other thing you can do is a piece of paper. Doesn't work quite as well, but it's good in a pinch to tape a piece of paper over it. And then when the wind blows, it'll kind of move it a little bit.
Got it. Yep. That's really smart.
Yep.
Or like a tissue, because they have tissues in the room. That makes sense.
Yeah, just anything to keep that movement in front of that sensor going.
I understand completely.
You understand? It was like both of us going.
I know.
My wife hates that, by the way. Every time I go, she goes. Every time.
Why?
I'll be like, she'll go.
Why?
Because she hates it.
You're not allowed to clear your throat.
No, she literally hates it. And I'll tell you why. It's actually an interesting story. I told you a little bit about Joyce being born with a lot of birth defects in her face, and she didn't have any bones in her nose or in her area there, so they had to build it off of her hip. Well, later on in life, in order to fix her jaw, they had to break her jaw and wire it shut. And I think she was like that for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. She was on the wired shut situation. So because she was wired shut, she couldn't eat anything. Did you get the video? Are we almost ready with the video now? Is it almost fixed?
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome.
Okay.
And I found you half and half.
And I forgot to make your coffee.
You didn't. You're okay. I can totally make my own coffee. I appreciate that very much.
All right.
Morning.
Morning.
Can we try the video now? Let's see if it's working.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Where is that?
Try it now.
We're not.
Try it now. Oh, no. Go there.
Oops.
See, this is the problem. Up there. Yep.
I was not firing on all 8 cylinders this morning.
She's on like 2.5.
You
only
got
have
it
8?
fixed, Tiffany.
You only have 8
Thanks.
cylinders?
I don't know, honey.
Good morning.
That's how many I don't have right.
I feel like
now.
I have like way more of my cylinders back now after
Do you?
last week.
Good. Yeah, you were quite the busy bee last
Bird?
week.
Beaver?
No, bee. I said bee.
Let's talk about that, shall we? I mean, I know it's not Thankful Thursday, but I just want to say how thankful I am that the final 2 of 12 properties is sold. Thank you, Jason Bagley, realtor, FalmouthRealty.com. Lots of shameless plugs. I'm going to, because there's a lot of people to thank who, I mean, really over this past year that helped us get to this point. And, you know, everybody had some sort of contribution to it, no matter what. I mean, and it's such a long story that I don't want to tell the whole story, but I'm the power of attorney for an elderly woman who's a dear friend of ours and has been for over 25 years. And she got scammed and she got taken by a con artist. And I really wanted to talk about it today because I feel like there's so many people that just really aren't paying attention to who their family members are letting into their homes.
Yeah.
Right. And I was even thinking about that, like when you held open houses, you know, just some of the people you encountered and the people that do come in during an open house that do want to steal from you, right? Or case the joint or squat.
Yeah, we had a couple that I called you on it. It was like, there's something not right about this, so I'm letting you know. And one of the things that I do after open houses, because I am worried about that, is I will go through and I won't just check the doors. I check the windows.
Right.
Because that's an easy place for them to get access without you paying attention to it. Right. So you have to check all the locks on the windows too. And I'm not saying anybody particularly would or wouldn't do it, but I just don't trust anybody now.
Yeah.
Over the years, especially after what's been happening in the last 5 to 6 years, it's like, my gosh.
It's rough out there.
People just want to take.
They do. People want to take. And it's, you're talking about that couple, and I think we talked about them before, and you found them sitting up on they were sitting on my bed in the house.
10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
Well, that's awkward.
And on their phones, right? Weren't they on their phones?
When I came up there, they were on their phones.
Which is like, really kind of creepy in itself. Like, what are you doing? But were they taking pictures? Like, I don't know what they were doing. I mean, regardless, it's not you, it's me. I have no internet on my computer yet. It's like it forgot me. I wasn't here for over.
So I think it's a cool story, though, how God can work through these situations. And originally, I think the other agents had kind of put you in a price point. And I'll say this: so it's vital that you price a home correctly. If you think that you have the expertise, you have to understand that you've got to have all the information. And so when we went to go look at this last house, which is a stunning home, and to be quite honest with you, should have sold for far more than it did.
I think so too. Todd and I were talking about that, and I said, you know, Jason was disappointed in me too, because we see the value of the house, and I spent so much time in it. And then you look at how other houses are being built. I mean, you know, whatever, regardless. And so he was like, yeah, but it's gone. And this was a 7-year-long process to get these houses sold. So, and I had to wait. I couldn't sell it because Deb was building a home over here in Burleson, and, you know, we got her moved. And so that was the hold up until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And well, actually, I think we listed it 2.5 years ago while she was still living in it. And it just wasn't time. It wasn't the right time. I don't think it was priced right.
Yeah.
And there was things that needed to be done to it to really finish it out. Like we hadn't done the garage yet. And so shout out to Thomas Sharp Contracting, built the garage for that house, built a brand new garage for the house behind it, did the finish outs on that, did a new roof, did, this, that, whatever. And, I mean, all these different players that came into play just in this past week, because dealing with VA loans is an absolute nightmare.
It's tough.
But if you could do it, don't turn away a buyer because of that either. You got to,
I'll say this. So it's tough when you're dealing with a house that may have one or two issues, right?
Yeah.
And so this house didn't particularly have an issue necessarily, but there was two things that were already getting repaired that had to be repaired in order for us to close. So before we get too far from the price point thing, I want to explain something to people. When you price your home, you can overprice your home and it won't sell.
Mm-hmm.
It will absolutely not sell because you've priced it too high. And it doesn't matter whether you drop the price, because whatever you started at, the price you drop to ends up being someone going, well, why is it being dropped so many times? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's really important. But there's a secondary thing that people don't see very often. And this is the situation that we ran into with this home when I took over, is we went back and forth on what do we price this home at? Because can I share the price points?
Yeah, okay? Sure. Yeah.
So it was listed several times for $650,000. And unfortunately, and I'm not saying anything about anyone else, I'm just talking about me. In my situation, in my observation, you should always have an agent that is going to have a showing service that can show the home and make sure that the owner knows when that house is being shown. And the best way for you to do that with your agent is to make sure they have a blue Supra box, which is a digital box that lets you know whenever somebody opens that box. I know every single time someone opens one of my Supras immediately. And I also know when someone's scheduling. And not only do I know, but all of my sellers know that they're getting a scheduled showing. And they can say yes or no or whatever in between. But they have an inclination of what's going on. So the information passing is very, very important. But the other side of that is if you don't price a home high enough, especially on a home like what we were selling here, it can have the opposite effect as what you would think, because people look at it and go, why is it so cheap?
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
It's silly because I used to make cakes, right? And like, it sounds silly to compare cakes to real estate, but I'm going to do it anyway. But, like I used to, when I first started out, I priced my cake at a certain level, and like, I was barely making any money on it. If I wasn't really making any money on them, but people would kind of look at those prices and be like, well, that's cheap cake. It's not going to be worth it. Like, then it sounds like it's too much money for the cake because they think it's not worth whatever even the bottom rate price was. When I started raising my prices, they started having less problems paying it.
Yeah.
And it's like they saw the value in it because it didn't look like cheap cake.
It's good cake.
Oh man, my
cake is moist.
I make good cake.
So I think it's a rare item where, as an agent, we have to say we're priced too low. It's just too low. And so when we looked at that particular neighborhood, it hadn't had any sales on that street that you could do a comp on.
Right.
Because people live there forever.
Yeah.
Right.
So no one wants to move from there because it's probably one of the most beautiful streets I've seen around DFW.
Yeah.
Truly. And so you have this street that it's full of historic homes. Literally, there's these big state of Texas historic markers on these homes. And so how do you price that? Well, if you don't have any comps, then you are the comp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out what people are willing to pay for something without overpricing it for the area, because then you're back to square one, and not underpricing it so people aren't willing to look at it. And I think God really helped us. And I believe this, I truly, because I prayed a lot about it. I'm like, Lord, I I don't know what to tell Tiffany, so you're going to have to tell me what to do here. And I told you I didn't want to do it. It was pretty far. And I was like, okay, she needs help. It's been a tough sled. And he revealed that this needed to be a set the market. So where we were setting the market.
Right.
We literally did that. And
that's a confidence that I want to tell you, it's a bold, confident move to do that. One, as a real estate agent, and two, to have that trust in you to set that, because you really got to believe in it. And this house was marble top to bottom, state of the art,
Miele appliances.
Yeah, I mean, just Viking 8-range commercial stove, and oh yeah,
you want to let him in?
Yeah, let me let the water guy in.
Water boy. Yeah, everything was state of the art. I mean, it was from top to bottom. I mean, there were crown molding in every one of the rooms, built-ins and all. No, built-ins in all of the closets. There was air conditioned and heated storage. Everything
fully wood floor, like the rest of the house.
The whole house.
You could like. I mean, I know what I would have done with certain rooms if if this was my permanent forever home, but clearly it wasn't. Like I would have turned one of those closets into like a full on dressing room.
Sure,
like straight up.
Well, there's plenty of room to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can easily. I mean, there's even one of the storage areas would be a great play place,
right?
If you had
littles
or something like that. I mean, it literally was its own room.
Yeah,
and you guys set the market. And that was amazing.
Yeah, it's really and it was really interesting to hear people, talk about the price point when they came in and looked at the house. I don't recall anyone during your open houses go, "Oh, this is so overpriced." Not one person. In fact, I really felt like there were a few that were just like, "Wow, that's it."
We had one guy come in. He'd been living there forever, and he comes in and he was in overalls, and he comes in and he says, "How much do you think this thing worth? What, 400, 450?" And I just started laughing. I said, "No, sir." I said, that's not, this is quite a bit more. And he goes, and when I told him the price, he goes, "Ain't nobody going to pay that." Okay. Well,
I'm going to go with that was probably one of the guys who because one of the things that we did was we looked at the appraisal district for the entire street in that entire neighborhood to go, okay, what's everybody paying on the CAD? And then we both were like, holy God, these people are getting a massive deal. Their appraisal had not gone up yet. So they're probably going to hate us because it's
right.
Their values.
There are homes in there, y'all, that 8,000 square feet with a pool and a guest house.
It was like
$450,000
on the CAD. Like they had not updated the CAD, and there were people that we had talked to. In fact, I think it was the buyer's mom, and she was like, "My taxes 2 blocks over are higher than this block."
Yeah, I wonder what the deal is there. But let me just say this: I hope they don't get their taxes raised, because I think we all pay too much in property taxes as it is. But the reality is that house anywhere else than where it was, if it was, so Rockwall's just down the street. If it's in Rockwall, it's a $1.2 million home.
Yeah.
If it's in Burleson, it's a $1 million home.
Yeah.
So the fact that we ended up selling it for a good price compared to where it was,
right?
Which was more than what the original asking price was, by the way,
right,
by significant margin. And what that does, Deb is an elderly woman, and for me, that was the big prayer. Was like, Lord, I want to help this lady to make sure she gets as much as she can out of this house without taking any more out of her pocket. And so I'm just so glad that we were able to make something happen for her.
Yeah.
And I know it's a big stress relief off you too. And you're my friend.
No, but a lot of that stress comes from what it's been costing her, because people don't understand that, like when they're looking at, well, I mean, she just had these last 2 houses. Yeah. That's insurance. That's property taxes.
Yeah.
That's water, electric, internet for the big house for, cause I lived almost half of 2023 in Terrell. That's where I was overseeing these projects so they can get them done and we could get them sold and get the money that was stolen from Deb back into her, into her Edward Jones account. So, and shout out to Lynn Bates, just want to say, with Edward Jones.
Great guy.
And
Another Rotarian.
Yeah, and really watches over his clients, because everything that played out here over the past 7 to 8 years, he was a vital part in it, along with the attorneys and everybody, of catching this thief, man. And well, and as we know, without getting deep into it, God takes care of it all on his own, people. He really does.
It was 2 of the most stressful closings I've tried to get done. But
I feel like I was nonstop. I had a friend of mine reach out. He was like, "Hey, I'm coming through. Let's have dinner." I never saw the message. Never. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you should pick up and call me next time." And he goes, "Well, what were you doing?" I'm like, "I had roofers till 7:45, 2 nights in a row. I had this vendor and this vendor and this." It was like, what, 2 to 3 and sometimes 4 vendors every day for an entire week.
Constant.
And it was, and then, I can't, this was like one of the great things. When you come home, my husband says, we took Sunday fun day. We just, got minimal tan lines in the backyard. That's all I'm gonna say. Minimal tan lines in the backyard. And he said, "You look like you lost some weight, like up in here." And I was like, "Really?" I'm like, "Well, that's what I was running up and down those stairs." And
getting them ab
and I was 8 pounds lighter last year.
Oh, wow.
I'm serious, when I was living there, because I was constantly going up and down the stairs, and I would track my steps, and then walking back and forth between the 2 properties, and, look at this. Is this right? What do you want this? And running and picking up supplies or whatever. I was in constant motion. And I also, and I was trying to figure out, like, what else was different? Well, I was drinking a Body Armor Light, probably 2 to 3 of them every day, along with my water.
Yeah.
So I was just constantly hydrated and constantly in motion. And I was like, God, it's nice to come home and, like, because we don't lie to each other. He would have been, if you were like, "What the hell happened to you this week?" He's like, "You swallowed a freaking basketball." I mean, he would say that to me. So it's not like my husband was trying to flatter me. So I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, now that you say that, I do feel a little better. So yeah. Then you just feel a little better.
He had a good night too.
Bow, chicka, bow, bow.
So I want to say too, shout out to you, because these buyers came in and they were really, really sweet, and something went wrong right at the very last that we figured out on the sump pump, and it wasn't in the paperwork that we had to do it. But Tiffany's like, "No, I'm not handing this to them in any other condition than this best it can be." And so, I mean, she's already scheduled out something that, even though we're closed and we're ready to roll, Tiffany is stepping up and making sure that they have everything working like it should. And it is so nice to work with great people. And so you have a great owner that understands that and trusts you. So as an agent, that's the best thing we can have, is to have their trust. And you never lose that. If you ever lose that, then you're going to have a hard time in this business.
I think one of the greatest things too is that I got an opportunity to really spend time with the buyers in the house.
Yeah.
And got to know them, and the mom who lives, a couple blocks away. And so I could see, a little bit of fear in the wife's eyes, in Jennifer's eyes, a little bit, because it's if you sit and really look at the house, it can be overwhelming.
It's a large home.
If you let it overwhelm you, but they're going to fill it. They're going to fill that house so quickly. And I was watching her sit in the living room, in the front living room, and she was staring at the chandelier in the dining room. And I was watching her, and I was like, I could see apprehension. I was like, "Oh God, we cannot have apprehension now. We're so close." And I could see her, and she goes, "I just don't know if this is, if it's too formal for me." And I said, "You're looking at a blank slate right now." I said, "So you're focused on the chandelier." And let me tell you, it's a glam of all glam chandelier in this dining room,
it's
all
a
crystal,
stunning
chandelier. It's amazing. I wouldn't do anything to it, because you can dress down a room with the furniture.
You could do like a shabby chic.
Yeah, totally. You could. There's so many things. So in fact, I even sent her a round dining room table, from a friend of mine's house in Trophy Club, that I was like, "Look how she mixed it all together." Like I said, you don't, and she loved it. So, but I watched her, staring, but then at the same time, they were also placing furniture, in their conversation, like, I think we're going to put the poker table in this front room. And I was like, I never would have thought to turn this room into that type of room. But if that's what suits you, I actually think it can become really a cool kind of gaming billiards room, So I'm excited to see what they do to it in the future. And I actually know that they hired Sharp Contracting to do some other things in both houses.
Well, I want to talk about the other agent on the other side of this deal.
Yes, Mandy. We need to play her song when we come back. All right, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair, the world's lightest wheelchair, is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
Remember Helen Kerwin? As county commissioner, she raised the tax rate over 95%, increased taxes, utility rates, connection fees, and pushed to give the state even more taxing authority. Well, Helen Kerwin's back, handpicked by the Washington swamp to push a voucher scheme that takes funds away from our local schools and gives taxpayer-funded private school vouchers to illegal immigrants. They'd even go to the front of the line ahead of U.S. citizens and legal residents. It's the very same voucher scheme Dwayne Burns stopped last year before delivering the largest tax cut in Texas history, the strongest border security plan in America, and new laws to protect our kids at school and online. Dwayne Burns is the real conservative who puts our community first. He won't be bullied by powerful politicians or D.C. special interest groups because he doesn't work for them. He works for us. Political ad paid for by the Dwayne Burns campaign.
Joco Community Radio. Listen live at tunein.com.
Joco Community Radio is a member of EMG, a radio and podcast collective, proudly serving communities like Johnson and Tarrant County, Texas. We are live 365 on the TuneIn Radio Network and on our station app. Check out our lineup and more at tuneinjoco.com. We thank our valued partners in helping us amplify the voices of our communities. You heard the commercials.
Heard.
Be sure to connect with Todd Hurd and Associates, attorneys at law. Use code JOCO 2024 for 25% off your first order at thetiffy.com. And join Swipe Nation today and save on your credit card processing at swipenationusa.com. Locally owned and operated. Reach out to Tiffany at jo.co@jococommunityradio.com for advertising rates as low as $50 a month.
50. You guys crack me up. Welcome back to the second half of Joco Vibes here on Joco Community Radio. I'm Tiffany Carlin with Sarah Reeves, A.K. Arden, A.K. Red, and Jason Bagley.
Hey! Morning show. I love
it. All right. So before we went to break, okay, we're talking about this whole real estate process thing that I just went through, and can I do the bragging now?
Go ahead.
And first of all, thanks for your kind words.
Yeah,
that's just integrity. I mean, I just would not feel right, especially after you meet people who are buying something from you, and if you were if they were to like, oh my God, the sump pump's working, that's great, but what the hell's happening in the back of the yard? It's flooding everywhere. I would feel like a total, a-hole if I didn't take care of that, right? Like that
Sure.
reflects on me, and I wouldn't want that. And so, my brag one on you is your attention to detail, your investment in the sale. And I can't stress this enough for realtors. You have to, and you're selling something where you're going to make, let's say, $10,000 to $40,000 in one sale, right?
Yep.
Well, in order to get that 10 to 40 grand, you have to spend some money, invest in it as well.
I spent quite a bit on this.
You did the 360 tour. You did, you had amazing photos taken,
Advertising.
I mean, you really, really, really sold it. And not only that, you spent how many weekends in a row holding open houses 2 days in a row, which is an investment of your time, which costs you money. I mean, this is every time that you're doing something like this, you're investing in selling something. And that's how realtors need to look at what they're doing. And not only on that side, on the other side, on the buyer side, here we had Mandy Cole, realtor up
awesome
in Rockwall, and she's services the whole area.
And anybody looking for a great agent
in that
area, I would highly suggest Mandy Cole, and she is with Coldwell Banker.
She is top notch. So when I say about selling a property, so I have a ring camera. I have ring cameras up at this house because I'm not up there all the time. And so that's my way of keeping an eye on the house, making sure, if there was any motion or if I left a lockbox out for one of the vendors to get in, I could do it because I could see what was going on in the house. And so during these open houses or when a realtor showed the property, I did watch, or I watched after the fact. And I was so incredibly impressed with her because she was the first realtor that actually walked in there on the buyer side and sold the house. She sold it. She didn't just flip on lights and say, okay, take your time looking around and then not have any answers to certain questions. She researched the back end of this house. She looked at everything. She knew that
she knew the appliances.
Yes, she did.
Huge.
That was giant for me, right? Like, do you remember me texting you going, holy cow, she's talking about the steamer. Like it wasn't a question and then go, well, let me find out. Although she did have questions and she did message you during that time too, but she was immediate about it. It's like, let's not wait till later because people are buying now.
Right.
They're not window shopping. And you could tell that they weren't window shopping because these buyers were relocating from, military living in 8 different states, I think.
Well, and they had a deal
Hawaii
fall through as well.
Right.
And this is an interesting situation because they were already nervous before they ever hit this property.
Yeah.
Because they had a deal fall through on appraisal. So here we are trying to coach them through the process of buying a home in a matter of a couple of weeks rather than having a full month to work everything out. We had literally days instead of months.
I was hoping to hold like 2 estate sales up there. And Jason goes, when do you think you're going to do that? I'm like, well, I'm just going to do it next weekend. What are you talking about? He goes, we're closing next weekend. I was like, what? I'm like, are you shitting me? I'm like, I've already moved this house like 2 different times and now I got to finish moving it.
Yeah.
And I was just blessing on top of that. They bought some of the furniture and like that, buying that big armoire upstairs.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I was like, thank you, God, because I wouldn't want any mover to even attempt to bring that thing down those beautiful stairs.
Yeah.
Because I
nick
just,
them or something.
yeah. I mean, all I was thinking is that thing's like 500 pounds. And it was giving me just stress and just being able to sell them like Christmas stuff. And, and I left some extras. And
well, I brought something for you.
For me?
Yeah. A little thank you for letting me take care of you and Deb. So my brother is a woodworker. And this is,
oh my God, that's
awesome.
beautiful.
It's cherry. It's made out of cherry. It's great for cutting board or if you want to use it for charcuterie.
Giant paddle.
And I just want you to know that when it comes to a realtor, you found well.
We did. Look at you.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you so much. It's beautiful. Really.
I dig it.
And we know I cook, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Should get a lot of use out of that.
Have to have you over. Not for brisket, because that was like a heavy smell yesterday when we were in Ranger Title. By the way, shout out. Big, huge shout out to Ranger Title.
Yes.
If you need a title company, hands down, hands down, Ranger Title.
Yeah.
Sorry if I upset anybody else I know who's in the industry, but I'll tell you what.
There's a lot of great title companies out there, but I have to say, as far as this particular these two transactions, they made things happen.
Well, and Maria, and this is Ranger Title, the office in Terrell. Maria, she didn't give up, and she said something really cool to you and I yesterday when we were closing. And she's like, she turned down in how many years? 17 years?
17 years.
In 17 years, she's turned down one closing, and it had nothing to do with a problem with title commitment or any of that. It had to do with how the two parties were treating each other.
Yeah.
And I found that to be just so, and like, you want to just step back and go, you know what? There's so much freaking drama between this buyer and seller. I don't want any part of it whatsoever. And just every part of these two purchases that were the two sales on my end. Because Shannon, who bought the little house, is absolutely amazing too. She's fantastic. And I've been in touch with her, and she's, asked information, and she came over and gave me a hug the other day. And so these two transactions, the whole process between all of it, despite our challenges, that thanks to Ranger Title and Todd Hurd and Associates and
Mandy Cole,
and well, I'm even just talking on like the title, those
the
title problems
sure,
that we were, that could have stopped the whole process. Right.
Yeah.
We all worked together. Like it was like a dance, like everybody wanted to get it done.
Yep.
And everybody did their part, and everybody's moving parts. We all worked. It just was a good dance.
So this is a very important thing. I think a lot of agents miss too, Tiffany, is we are not on the opposite side. A lot of people think that we are. We are fiduciaries to our clients. That's 100% true. But like attorneys, we have to work together for the good of both parties so that we can come to a positive conclusion. Now, that positive conclusion hopefully will end up in a sale of a home, but it can also be a positive conclusion where you say, you know what, this isn't going to work, so let's move on. Because the worst thing you can do is try to push something through that's not a positive for both sides. And I think it's just really, really important. And Mandy understood this, that we work together for the good of the conclusion, not for our good, because financially, it's great that I get paid for what I do, and I'm appreciative of it, but it's hard to get paid for what I do. And I don't think people understand how often I have to walk away from deals because it's not the right one.
Hey, that's how it works for attorneys too. Like, people don't realize, well, he makes a ton of money. You realize he had to work on that case 5 years before he ever got paid on it. And people understand it's the same thing with the sale of a house. You're not getting paid monthly while you're trying to sell this house or show the buyers. Well, that's a conversation down the road because things are changing in your industry. But
can I tell you a quick joke about that?
Yeah.
Regarding attorneys. So the deal for the NAR settlement was that they were trying to separate commissions so that they didn't feel like it was right that sellers had to pay buyers commissions when, they don't want to, right? And they never have had to, but they wanted to separate it completely and basically make it to where buyers agents didn't have to get paid. Okay. So the irony of that is the settlement has gone through, and now the attorneys that were suing are asking for their compensation. I mean, the irony of that. Well, we deserve this money because we worked real hard on it. Well, no one promised you anything.
But who were they? Because I didn't go back and look at that whole suit, like how it all started. Like, who were they representing? There was an initial assailant, and then they make it a class action lawsuit, and they include all these other people that, if you've been duped or, and then they added all those people. But together. Were they representing a group of realtors or
group of sellers?
Sellers. Okay.
Yeah.
Where the seller said, I'm tired of paying.
They were colluding is what they said, to price fix. Okay. Here's an interesting point. NAR is essentially a union. Okay. So in a union, like you go drive over there by Miller Brewery, all those guys are sitting on the sideline saying, we want to get paid more. And if we don't get paid more, we're not going to work.
Right.
So we as agents are asking for a certain amount. And by the way, we're required to say we are a compensation-based agent, you can pay me what you want to. Here's what I want to make. And you can say yes or no to that. But the way that they put all this together, NAR is settling out. And now we've got to, I don't think it's going to change much now that I've really, really thought about it. Because at the end of the day, people have to sell their houses, and buyers have to have buyers agents. It's not going to work without it. It's just not. But my whole point is if it had union at the end of it, they'd be gunning for us. But Biden came in and said, well, you agents need to take a pay cut. Well, they don't understand that the average agent makes about $40,000 a year.
If they're not hustling.
Even when they hustle.
You know what I mean.
I know, but
when I'm facetious, but you know what I mean.
I get it. But the problem is people don't understand that we work our butts off. We just do. And I mean, if you're a good agent, you're working your butt off.
Well, I just want to say that really quick because I've been on this side, on the seller side of all of this, but I've been able to watch the buyer side too, because I've watched them come in and out of the house. And there was a ton of what I call stupid, lazy agents who came in and showed that house. And no wonder you didn't sell it, because you weren't selling the house. You thought it was just going to sell itself and you were going to get your 3% for walking people through the door. I think that's what people get sick of. That's what we're sick of. So the way I kind of looked at everything you've described to me and how the industry is changing is I see this is going to weed out the ones who aren't working as a realtor anyway.
Yeah.
If you're selling one property a year because that's all you need to, why are you wasting people's times? It's like, how many calls did you witness I got, like I would receive as soon as I took it off the market before, right? When I fired the one agent who had it for like 30 days, who literally did nothing. And I mean nothing to sell. And so I fired her.
And now she came to you from that.
She was a call,
cancel, right?
She was right. It was after the first contract canceled, or expired, whatever. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. She was one of the robocalls that I got.
Yeah.
But she was consistent then. Like, right. She followed up with me. And so that's what kind of sold me. I'm like, okay, this woman's, she wants it. Like she wants it. And she sold me on being that go-getter. And then you helped me do some research, and we were like, she is not a go-getter. Like, I got duped, and whatever.
I didn't help you do anything other than just show you,
this is what you should be doing, right? Like, and she straight up lied about stuff, and so whatever. But she didn't do anything. She acted like she was going to be really presenting and selling a house that was a $700,000 house. And she didn't do any open houses. She didn't do a 360 tour. She didn't do any ads. She didn't show up.
Yeah.
And so, I needed the confidence to say, okay, this person's not doing their job and I should be able to fire them. And that's kind of where you kind of came in and just were like, it's okay. I can't tell you to do it, but
help me, help me figure out, what am I supposed to, how help me is what you were doing.
Yeah.
You were asking for help.
I just wanted to know if it was okay. If somebody doesn't do their job, you should be able to fire them. And,
well,
and
we don't get involved in contractual disputes.
No. Like let me elaborate on that really quick. That's not how Jason helped me. Jason helped me as a friend and did not want my listing.
He was sick over it. He'd be like, I don't know, Sarah. I don't know if I can help her. I don't know if I should do this.
it's because it's,
and I was like, please.
It was really far, and working with friends can be, it
tough.
Can ruin friendship.
Yeah,
it can ruin friendship.
And so for me, it was much more, and I told her this, I said, and I told you, for me, the friendship's much more important than me selling a house or doing something like that. But what the key was for me was Deb was in need.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, we're here to help people. And if I can't help somebody, then why am I even here? Why am I doing this job?
Right.
And I think there are a lot of really great agents out there that are looked over because somebody had, and I've said this in a video, because they had the certain look or because they were family.
Yeah.
Guys, this new NAR settlement should stave off some of this. You're going to have to pay for your agent, which you, by the way, always have.
Yeah.
You've always had to pay for your agent. It just came out when so 3% or 2% or $500 or whatever the number was, you're paying that in your monthly bill when you pay your house payment. That's how it's worked.
Well, just pay. just watch. I think that's really, I mean, I have a lot of realtor friends and a lot of realtor friends who are great realtors.
Mhm.
But before you choose one of them, if you're going to choose someone that you're friends with to sell your property or represent you as a buyer, really watch what they've done or what they are doing as an agent for other properties. I think that's, and before you choose one of them, because it's really hard sometimes. You're like, oh, you went with so and so, and I'm like, I mean, I'm trying to share the love, but
I
that
think there's
becomes a
some great,
challenge.
and we can talk about this real quick. There's some great questions that you can ask your realtor that will tell you a lot about what they're capable of. Instead of asking them, well, how many houses have you sold and what's the last house you sold? Those are things that you can get off MLS any day of the week from another person. Okay. It's pretty easy to get that. And you can make them show you that list. Say, show me the list of your MLS sales in the last 90 days.
All things I wish I had done with realtor I fired.
Okay. So that's A, but that is not a disseminating factor because agents can go 6 months without a sale. I have, and I think I'm a pretty decent agent. So what does that mean? It means, what are you doing to help me sell, or what are you doing to help me buy? The first thing I'm going to tell a buyer as an agent, and this shocks people, guys, I'm probably not going to find your house. You are. I'm going to send you a lot of houses, but at the end of the day, there's certain things that you see that I'm never going to know. But what I will do is I'm going to walk you through the house and we're going to talk about things. And the first house probably not going to be the one. It may take 8 houses. It may take 12 houses for us to find the house that you're looking for. If an agent is telling you the truth, you can guarantee that they're working as an integrous person. So being honest and saying, look, I'm probably not going to buy your house, or I'm not going to find your house is an honest thing because you know it's true.
Yeah.
You know it's true. And if somebody's saying, well, I'm going to send you a bunch of houses, we got all these connections and all this stuff. Listen, they don't have any more connections than the guy that's sitting down the road.
The house, our house that we live in now, well, we've been in this house for 15 years,
Yeah.
I think, something like that. And 2008, we moved back over here in 2008. We looked all over Mansfield before we ended up, on the backside of Burleson, heading towards Mansfield.
Yeah.
We looked all over there, but almost every single house that we looked at, I had already found it on MLS and went, these are the ones I want you to show. And Dave Buskey was our agent.
Yeah. He's a great agent.
Yeah.
By the way.
Known him for years. Right. And of course met him through my sister, Tamara. And so I said, but this is what I want to go look at. So you're absolutely right. I mean, most people will go and look on their own. And sometimes it's a weird mix, right? Some went out of our original, budget. In fact, the house that we bought was way over. I mean, it was in our budget, but was way over what we originally the picture.
Thought. Yeah. Because you tell them, oh, listen, I don't want to pay more than $600,000. But you find one that's 715 and it's your dream home.
Yeah.
And you can figure it out.
You're
and
like,
so
okay,
there's stuff like that happens.
Where's the extra money? Where
Right.
are we gonna pull it from if you have somewhere to pull it from, right? I mean,
so
I'm
some
talking
great
about our
questions.
scenario.
Here's a great question. So we just dealt with a VA buyer. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're a VA buyer or an FHA buyer, talk to your agent and ask some questions. What is it about certain houses that keep us from being able to buy it if we're a VA buyer? Where can I go to know whether or not I can use an FHA loan? Because I talked to a couple on Sunday, and they were like, "Yeah, we were going to do an FHA loan, but we found out that they're not offering that where we're at." And I said, "Yes, but they do offer it in certain areas that you can get an FHA loan. Just because you can't get it in the middle of Fort Worth doesn't mean you can't get an FHA loan." And they were like, "What?" Yeah. You have to know where to go. And so
certain markets
you can't
work, get one.
And so asking them, if you're planning on doing an FHA loan, or you want to do like a VA loan or like a FHA, I think there's a 401k or something like that. It's a 401b or something like that, where you have to do a remodel on it. There's all different ways you can do that. So having good lenders and agents who say, do you have lenders that you work with that do FHA loans? Okay. So these relationships are all important. So when you're asking an agent saying, well, I'm trying to buy a house and I want to buy it as a VA. I have a great VA lender that can go through and immediately I had a couple that said they wanted to buy, and we were supposed to go look on Thursday. And I said, guys, I want you to talk to a lender first. Before we get started looking, I don't want you to get disappointed. Let's find out. Well, he's coming out of the military. He's a Marine. and he's coming out of the military. Well, the problem is you're coming out of the military, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
You can't buy a house right now. Now, if I was just some rogue agent that wanted to look at houses and wasn't thinking straight, I'm showing them 15 houses, wasting my time and theirs to find out later on, oh, well, they can't buy a house right now because they're changing jobs in the middle of this.
Right. Well, I mean, the people who bought, I don't know their whole scenario. I mean, clearly, we did do something that was, we did a $10,000, you call it a buyback?
Seller concession.
So I helped them at closing is basically what happened. And that's what you do when you're in a position to where you've got a little wiggle room and you are ready to really let go. I mean,
well, the thing is we sold it for significantly more than what it was originally listed for.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of the agreement that we had. I said, look, we're going to list it at this. And here's what our bottom line is. Anything above that bottom line, we need to work it out.
Yeah. And we had to wait for appraisal.
Oh my gosh.
And we were like, okay,
please,
appraisal, please come through. It was like that. And we hit it.
That's
thank
another
God.
thing too. Both Mandy and I presented comps to show the value of that house. Okay. And the appraiser was willing to look at them, which sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. But in this case, he and we knew this.
Yeah.
He didn't have any comps. So we had to provide comps because it was literally, as I said, there was nothing. We had to set the market. And so again, just great agents can find ways to make things happen.
And I'll say you're welcome to that entire neighborhood for when anybody else goes and puts something on the market, because now they have a comp.
Can you imagine how much that 8,000 square foot house will sell for now?
Are we talking
if they ever sell?
Are we talking about the Lion House?
Well,
or the other one?
The other one.
The big Victorian.
Is it a Victorian or is it I would think it's more of a plantation style. The one with the rounded.
Yeah. On the same side of the road as the Lion House.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say plantation. You're right. Yeah. The Victorian one is on the other side. Yeah, that house.
It looked like it belonged in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
On the water. And if you've ever been to Charleston, South Carolina on the water, that's exactly
that house on the market could get me to move.
That's $2 million house. I'm not kidding.
House is absolutely
amazing. It's a
amazing.
$2 million
There's
house.
so many houses on that block. Like, I want to go do our own realtor tour and just go. I mean, the Tudor house that has the guest house in the backyard. I'm dying to see the inside of that house too. Like, I just want to go knock on doors and go, can I just see if I just see
like
your
that
house?
TikTok guy. He's like, can I get a tour of your apartment?
Yeah.
Mike Purdue said, don't get me started on appraisers.
Yeah, but Mike, we just had such a good crew, and it made this VA loan process way less painful. You know, I want to tell you something I said to the buyer, because he was really disappointed about them losing that sale on the Lake Tawakoni. And I said, that stuff happens for a reason. I said, it wasn't your forever home. He goes, you don't think so? I said, no, if it was your forever home and you were supposed to be in it, you'd be in it right now.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, for whatever reason, it wasn't meant for you. And here's where you are. And your mother-in-law is like, she's already moving in. She only lives like 2 blocks away. I mean, well,
speaking of VA lenders, by the way, because Mike Purdue's listening, Mike, Betsy Ferroli is my VA lender that I send my people to. She is pragmatic and she's going to tell you like it is. And that's what you need.
And the lender that they used, you said, was absolutely
Jennifer
fantastic.
Ott,
yeah,
with Fairway, outstanding lender. Great communication. Everything was on time. She had everything prepared, and we got a VA loan closed in, I think it was 17 days.
Holy God. Yeah.
17 days on a VA loan.
It was psychotic.
Yeah. It was psychotic.
Insane. So sorry that we turned this into a real estate show, but really just wanted to really talk. And we're gonna do a show where we have Mandy join us. She's already said yes.
Okay.
And just to kind of talk about that dynamic of working together as a team, because teamwork makes the dream work. Have an amazing day.
Betsy is still my rock star.
Have an amazing day, guys. God bless, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning. A huge lineup today. Be sure to come back at 11 a.m. for the County Pulse.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County. Joco Community Radio.
School choice. Sweet-sounding words from sweet-sounding groups like the American Federation for Children. Well, the truth is alarming. These are the people caught marketing private school vouchers to illegal immigrants in Arizona. And they want to do the same in Texas. But Dwayne Burns said no. And that's why they're targeting him in this election. The voucher program they're pushing is a magnet for illegal immigration.